Welcome back to another weekend update here of my little garden I've got growing inside. Just going to show you around what we have going on. Basically, a little bit of growth on the tomatoes. Um, some of the avocado here has picked up a little bit. Haven't seen much improvement on the grape, but we'll have a little bit of surprise upstairs with the potatoes. And show you around the grow room downstairs, and then we'll look. Here we can see the tomatoes have a little bit of growth. I've actually taken off the bottom leaf, or bottom branch of each one, and that encourages them to grow some new shoots. I want to bury a little bit deeper. Matter of fact, after I finish recording this, I'm going to be pretty much topping these pots up. As you can see, there's lots of room for me to add more soil in there. Actually, this pot here, a bit on the wide side, so I might change this pot out to a taller but not as broad pot, and that way I can get nice deep roots. We won't worry about getting them too broad. Once they go in the garden, they don't actually grow much wider than the pot itself does. That pot is pretty much about as big as the root ball will get, at least what we've seen in our garden. So I just made some progress. Not as much as I had hoped, but maybe another week or two can start pulling some small spinach. See how it goes, and make a call in a couple of weeks. Not sure if you saw this from my last video. We had a cutting from a chrysanthemum growing in my cuttings growing little area. It had a lot of branches, actually had a flower on it too. Kind of just left it as it is to see what it would do. It did actually grow a lot of roots. And once I transplanted it, kind of just stalled. It didn't get any better, it didn't get any worse. It just seemed to be stuck. So what I've done, I've trimmed back a lot of the branches. Now it's got more roots than it does leaves. So the hope is that having more roots than it does leaves will encourage it to actually start to grow some more branches and leaves. If not, I'm thinking this thing's, I don't know where it's going to go. So I'll have to see if it's worth the effort anymore, or we'll start with maybe another cutting.
So here we have the first potato bin. As you can see, we got some shoots growing in there. So we got about 2, 3, quite a few of them growing in there. All got their leaves, and have to move this location. We can start getting some more light. I might just have to throw some lights on top. We haven't been getting a lot of sunshine lately, so it's been a bit hit or miss on that. Here's a bit of a better shot of the second bin. As we can see, we got quite a lot of growth coming out here. These actually picked up really fast. Growing potatoes in the past, I find they are quick growers.
Now, typically a lot of our kitchen scraps go straight to the compost, but on some occasions there's a few things that we can try some experiments on. Celery is a good example. Here we have just regular kitchen, regular celery that you buy at your local grocery store. When you take your celery and you cut the celery off, you save the last quarter, half inch, throw in some water, and this has been about 2 weeks of growth. And it hasn't started growing any roots yet, and that's what I'm waiting for before I transplant to dirt. My concern is if I just throw it into dirt now, it may start to rot. Actually, you know what? You got a root. There's one little root on the bottom. So I'm going to go through and check all these. The ones that have roots, I'm going to throw in soil and see how they do. Now the other type of celery we have is Chinese celery. Now this one was bought from the store. It actually had roots on the bottom of the plant. And the intention was to get ones with roots on the bottom so we could do this. So and this thing is just taken off. In fact, it looks like it wants to split up a bit. But It has a lot of roots. This one we could probably get ready to put into dirt. It's growing, it looks healthy, it's pretty much ready to go. So in a bit I'll put these in pots and we'll start monitoring how those do. So this is the regular celery, and if we can look carefully here, right in here we got a little bit of a root. Got several pieces in there from different celery stalks. This one I really thought was interesting. I wasn't too confident about this one, but it's done pretty well. And we got a little bit of roots growing on that one too. This is the Chinese celery, and this is the one that already had roots on it. You can see there's some rotting material, and this is what you have to be careful of. As this rotting gets out of control, it can spread to the plant itself once you go put in dirt. At least that's the experience I've had before. Okay, and here's another example of a plant you can take from kitchen cutting. Of course, this is the pineapple. So with the pineapple, when you take the top of the pineapple, the part that you cut off, you don't use, take the bottom leaves about halfway up, take them all down. As you notice, when you take them off, don't shave them off, just peel them off. You'll notice there'll be little root nubs in there. And as soon as you put it into water or dirt, they'll take off and they'll grow roots. This sat a little bit dormant for probably about a month or so, and then it started to take off. And we've got a lot of new shoots coming down through the center. So keep an eye on this, see how it goes. I'm waiting for a new pineapple that should just come up through the center. I hear it can take a year or two before that happens, so we're just coming up to a year on this. Okay, so this is one of our chrysanthemums from last year. We had it in a pot, we decided to save it. We brought it in, and of course, we had some aphids with it. Chrysanthemums are very attractive to aphids. Matter of fact, I think if you have an aphid problem indoors and put one of these in there, all your aphids will go to the chrysanthemum. So it's a great aphid trap, but it got really bad. So had to trim it right down, almost to an inch above the soil. No green vegetation was left, just the stalk. And he waited it out and just waited out to see if it would survive. It did really well. It's come back really, really well. This is one of many of my little project plants that helped me get through the winter. It's great for practicing pruning methods. This is a jade plant. I don't know which specific jade. There's so many different kind of jade plants out there. I wouldn't even know where to begin. But the nice thing about jade plants is they're very forgiving when you do it wrong. I don't even know how you can do it wrong on these other than just aesthetically. You won't get what you want. But yeah, there's lots of videos on bonsai if you want to get into that. I haven't really thought about getting into bonsai again, more just practicing pruning methods. Just seeing where it goes when you do a cutting, see how the plant compensates, adjusts. Also, just pruning techniques. Again, before I go into the garden in the summer, where I'm going to be pruning plants that are perennial, that's going to have a long-lasting effect. So, again, with jade, the nice thing is they are forgiving. They're a fast grower too, and they're very prolific. Just take any leaf, take it off, and throw it in the soil. A new plant will grow, and it doesn't take long. I've got a lot. Probably got more than I can handle. I have more than I can handle going around. So I would take a few, let them grow. They don't go the way I want. They go on the compost. So it's kind of like grow your own compost. But yeah, this one I've had probably 2 years. So I mean, you can grow a jade You can try the different methods of trying to make it dwarf by always growing the growing tips, get it branch out a little bit more, or even cutting off branches. So here, taking out the branch, and over time the bark just grows over it, and it gets to the point where you don't really notice it. Another branch here, it's gone. It's almost hard to see it. Here I've taken out the growing tip here, and here, and here. And by doing that, taking out those growing tips, forces it to grow new branches. And you get these little clumps of branches. So it gives an interesting little look to it. And so, yeah, it's a fun little project. For those who don't have a garden, this is something you can do inside. They don't require a lot of light. Matter of fact, I would suggest keep them away from the window. I found that in direct sunlight they come to a stop. They just don't grow. In the winter time, when it's really dry in the house and we have the furnace going, they seem to just take off. Well, in summertime, they kind of stop. So interesting growing habits, environments. So yes, that's the jade plant for you. So can't eat it, toxic, but it's a good fun little project inside. We went down to one of our liquidation centers and they had these neat little rolly carts. They got wheels on there that spin around, and they're meant for plants. You just put your big pot plant on there, and it's great for saving the floor. We've got a lot of plants on our floor here. Moving them around, we turn them a lot. I turn them a lot. Move up. Went down to Liquidation World and picked up one of these little roller carts. Liquidation World up here, they're going out of business, so they're closing all their stores Canada-wide. So they got 20% off all their stuff. So went around picking up pots, pot trays, and got these little rolly carts for larger planters. And the idea with this is you put your planter on there and it saves the wear and tear on your floor when you drag your plants around. Of course, on occasion you have to turn your plants as they're going to start growing and leaning towards the light. So over time it wears out the floor. On a couple of our pots also, the tray has a leak on it, so we have to put them on cross, or we don't notice the leak until it starts coming out after. So with this, it's easier to move the pot out of the way and clean the floor. And they work quite great. This is our spinach. So, yeah, works good. We put them on all our pots. So we got pots bigger than this. This is probably the smallest pot I'd use these for. That's not true. I got one small, just slightly smaller than this, but for all intents and purposes, that's where the practicality of it goes. If it's a smaller pot, it's easier just to pick it up and move it. But for these larger pots, it sure makes it easy on you. Now, I'm just going to show you an update on spinach, not what we're talking about spinach here. This is the spinach that's been growing upstairs just under regular sunlight, whereas earlier I showed you the spinach growing downstairs under the grow lights. It's not doing too well. And this is, again, this time of year we just don't get much sunlight. Normally we do, but this year has been a really bad year for getting any sunlight into the house. Well, there's some of the updates in the past week and some new plants, some new stuff that I've acquired. If you have any questions, again, I've started making these videos because I've got co-workers and friends who are starting to get into gardening themselves. They got different arrangements, and they're a little bit curious about what can and cannot be done. And it's always nice to learn from other people. They've tried what's worked for them, what hasn't worked. And you know, what's worked for me may not work for you. What's worked for and hasn't worked for me might work for you. So, again, feel free to experiment, have fun. It should be a hobby, not a chore. If you don't enjoy doing it, don't do it. But I'm pretty sure anyone I've known that's gone into it really enjoys it, especially if you let it go the way you feel you want it to go. Be in control of it. Don't focus too much on trying to do what everybody else do. You don't want to get that look that you may see in someone else's garden. and don't get too hung up on that. You're going to fail, you're going to have successes, but if you're not failing, you're not learning. That's probably the easiest way to learn is to have those failures, and you learn from those failures. So go ahead, have fun. Again, if you have any questions, post them down below, and I'll try to keep putting some videos on. If there is an interest, I'll make some more. If there's something you want to see, feel free to ask, and I can put something together. And if you want to keep track of some of my videos, go ahead and subscribe.